Hello, and welcome back to Memories of Margaret, where the life and legacy of Margaret Curl will be shared through stories of her love for Christ, her family, her love of learning, and her love of all people. I'm your host, Martha Sue French, and I'm also the youngest of 6 children of Howard and Margaret Curl. In today's episode, I will share a little more of Mama's life and share a poem that she wrote entitled, I'm Tired. Now, I'm Tired was featured in the poetry book, She Still Speaks. But before I jump into this week's episode, let me correct some information that I shared in the last episode. I stated that the original From My Heart to Yours was published in 1986. It was actually published in December of 1996 by Reverend Dr. Robert J. Butler of Radcliffe, Kentucky. I found my copy where she personally signed it for me. Now, it was republished in 2012. Again, I cherish this copy because, again, there's a personal inscription to me that I'm getting ready to read to you before the poem. But just know that we did come out with a newer version in 2012, From My Heart to Yours by Margaret Curl. So the inscription reads as follows. Dear baby, or should I say youngest, many thanks for being a good kid, for making a mother's life exciting, with 2 exclamation points, and for all of your help. Love you, Mama. Again, this is the original poetry book that she published, and I cherish this and will for the rest of my life. So before I go into the actual poem, just want to share a little bit more information that even though Mama, Margaret, was very intelligent, again, I mentioned previously, she was the valedictorian of her graduating class. In my opinion, she was never able to blossom to her full earning potential. She had rather low-paying jobs, if any job at all. I remember that as growing up, she actually cleaned houses for $5 a day, not an hour. She cleaned houses for $5 a day and basically would stay there from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I said, sometimes she did not have any job at all. Remember, she was raising 6 children. She had a husband. Aunt Belle lived with us, and Aunt Belle was Eliza Belle Cleaver. She was my father's aunt. And throughout different periods of time, we had different people staying with us too. So Mama had a lot of responsibility on her. Now, Daddy, he never finished high school. So he had rather low-paying jobs his whole entire life. So there was never enough money. We grew up poor. So many of the poems that she wrote about talked about struggles, but a lot of her poems also talked about her faith, her cancer that we'll talk about in later episodes, her humor. There were many poems dedicated to numerous individuals, and really just any topic that would come to her mind. Some was about fruit. I think one was about a turnip. Anything that came to her mind, she could write poetry about. But again, I just wanted to set up a little background into her, I guess, earnings to provide context to the poem. So I'm going to read this poem. I'm tired. I'm tired of struggling and working, trying to keep the wolf from the door. I'm not a person for shirking. I'm just tired that I'm always poor. I'm tired of stretching each penny, never able to spend as I'd like. My comforts are not very many. Against poverty, I'd like to strike. I see people who have too much money and spend it every which way. And to me, it's not very funny, as I seem to get poorer each day. I have bills to pay. I am trying, but they're getting the best of me yet. I'm so tired, I feel just like dying. But a dead person can't pay a debt. If I died, wherever I landed, I'd be thinking of debts left behind. And the payments that in life were demanded, in death would still be on my mind. Yes, I'm tired, disgusted, and weary, but I must work on to the end. You can make my outlook less dreary by praying for me sometimes, friend. So please pray for me sometimes, friend. Again, that was the poem I'm Tired by Margaret Naomi Curl. Again, to just add a little bit more context. Say, Mama and Daddy grew up very poor. Well, I grew up very poor. Again, there were 6 children. There's not one time I ever remember receiving any type of government assistance. It's just that was just not who they were. They did not accept anything. It's not saying anything bad if you had to, but they wanted to do everything in their power not to have to do it before, before accepting any type of government assistance. It couldn't have been easy financially. As a matter of fact, I know it wasn't easy. Now, as the youngest, I don't have the same memories as my siblings have. However, my earliest recollection was living in a section of LaRue County, Kentucky, called Siberia. And in 1966, we moved to the Roanoke section of LaRue County. Now, the farm in Roanoke, it was purchased in cash by my father's Aunt Belle, so we could always have a home. Now, there will be more stories about Aunt Belle and how incredible she was in a later episode, or maybe episodes, because she's that interesting and that integral a part of the memories of Margaret. So let's get back to the farm. The farm we lived on, it was a 90-acre farm. Now, the house that we lived in, it did not have running water. I remember there was a pump in the front yard. We did not have central heat and air. We had wood-burning stoves. We did not have light switches. We had lights in the middle of the room with the cord that you would pull. And many times the cord would have broken off, so you would have to get up on something to screw in a bulb or unscrew the bulb. So again, I vaguely remember that there was an outhouse on the property, but we didn't use that because we did have a bathroom that was built onto the house later. It was a part of the house, but again, we didn't have running water. So it wasn't really functional. We had no running water. We did have to take baths out of wash pans. Remember Mama would heat water in a kettle on the stove, put that on the stove. Now the farm, the house is since long gone. It has fallen into the basement. It's no longer there. But the farm is still in our family now, some 58 years later. Now it has been sectioned off into different tracts, but the entire farm is still in the family. And that was per Aunt Belle's wishes. Anyway, from my recollection, Daddy, he either didn't believe in women drivers or he didn't endorse women drivers. So Mama never drove or had a driver's license in her life. So again, going back to the I'm tired, that made things even more difficult because she had to depend on other people to take her wherever she needed to go, whether it be work, to the store, to the laundromat, and then people to bring her back. So she never drove except one time, and that's going to be another story for another episode. And she didn't really get out of the driveway. But again, that's another story for another time. But to just Here are the words that she wrote here in the I'm tired. She had to stretch each penny. There will be subsequent stories regarding some of the meals that she would make and what she would make them out of. She was a miracle worker. She could make meals out of most anything, as you will see, like I said, in later episodes. Also, we could not afford games. We could not afford a lot of presents. So her creativity, she was able to create puzzles. She was able to create word finds. She was able to, I remember doing puzzles to where she would take it from the Bible. She would make sentences and she would leave blanks, but she would put what Bible verse it was from. So number one, it taught us to go read the Bible. But two, it was like, okay, fill in the missing word. So we had to read Bible verses and then add the word to it. But again, that's just a snippet of everything that she did. Even though she was tired, she made life incredibly interesting for her children. One of the last things I'll say before closing is Mama always used big words. And if I asked her what something meant, she would always say, look it up. So that's why I believe I have a vast vocabulary now, is because she would always use words that I did not know what the meaning was. So I would have to go look it up and see what it meant. Another way of learning, tricking me actually into learning. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the poem, I'm Tired. And she may have been tired, but she was so much more. Again, if you enjoy these memories, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or on Spotify. Also, please like us on Facebook. We appreciate any feedback that you have for us. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please leave a message on the Facebook page. And that Facebook page is Memories of Margaret. Or you can send an email to memoriesofmargaretnaomi@gmail.com. Again, that's memoriesofmargaretnaomi, Naomi, @gmail.com. Now, in the next episode, we're going to have a very special guest join us, our very first guest. And hopefully that person will share some stories, well, several stories, I'm hoping, with us. So until next time, make memories with your family. I want to close by sharing a couple of photos of Mama and Daddy, of my parents, that I just absolutely love. I located this picture. I'm thinking this may have been taken in the 80s, maybe. And just by the background, I'm thinking this may have been at the home of my brother Jimmy and Kay when they lived on Tanner Road. But anyway, just look at the smile. I actually see myself in that picture of Mama. Don't know if you all do or not, but I can see me. I can see the features of myself in that picture of Mama. This next one is one of my absolute favorites. This was taken at their home, the last home they lived in Roanoke, Kentucky. My brother Billy and his wife Venus live there right now. And just look how she's looking at him so lovingly. And then the big smile that Daddy has on his face. I'm thinking this was taken maybe around the 96, 97 era. But even after, so if it was 96, 97, we're looking at what, 47 years later, she's still sitting in his lap, looking at him. They're holding hands. I always just love this picture. But again, thank you for sharing and tuning in on another episode of Memories of Margaret. And again, go make memories with your family. Until next time, thank you so much.